Good morning. Welcome back to White Mountain Today here on White Mountain TV 16. And joining us in the studio is the appropriately named Chuck Clark. How are you from Castle in the Clouds?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. So you're the executive director.
That's right.
At the Castle in the Clouds, and been there for just over a year.
Yep. Been at the Castle for 2 years, in the executive role for a year. So
that's terrific.
Yeah.
And so how was your summer up there at the Castle?
We had a really good summer. A lot of guests coming through, and beautiful weather for most of the summer. Not too much rain, which was great.
Really was, actually, yeah. Come to think of it.
That's right, yeah.
And now you have a little bit of that foliage going on.
That's right. It's the perfect time to come visit. We've got 3 weeks left in our season. I close on Sunday the 25th of October, and the leaves are really starting to change in the mountains now. And still some greenery down around the lake, so you get a little bit of both colors.
Right, which is always
awesome.
Get them both. So let's give for the uninformed, give a little overview of what Castle in the Clouds is.
Yeah, right. Well, we're running it now as a historic house museum. It was built 101 years ago by a shoe manufacturer and industrialist named Thomas Plant. It was his retirement estate. He and his second wife moved up here in the fall of 1914. So. Just over 100 years now, and it's a really nice house. It was built there on top of the mountain, surrounded by, at his time, 6,300 acres of pristine wilderness.
Wow.
He loved the land as much as he loved the house that he built. Talked about spending time fishing and hunting and hiking, which is something we still encourage everyone to do today. We do the tours of the house, but you can also come up and just enjoy the property. Walk around, see the foliage, feed the fish in Shannon Pond. And if you're hungry, we have a great restaurant on site too that you can come and have lunch at.
And we'll touch on the restaurant just for a second, because that's in the old stable building.
That's right. Yeah, the carriage house is what we call it.
The carriage house. And what I love about that is that you go in and kind of like the sections for where the tables are the stalls.
That's right.
And you know, the floors and the ceilings, and I mean, so that's just, you got to go in just to look at that.
Right, yeah, even if you don't eat, come in and check it out, because we've taken that historic building and turned it into something new and modern, which is great, but you still feel the historic nature of the house and the building, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
And on a chilly morning like today, we'll have a nice fire in the fireplace too.
Yeah. So we're looking at some of the photos now of the Lucknow estate. And it is a spectacular site. And you've been doing restoration for the past 9 years now. And I've luckily been able to get up there several times, or quite a few times over the last 10 years, and have been able to see that. Right. And it's obvious. It's one of those things that I've been able to see the changes. And not that you're not putting in like new walls and, you know, modernizing it, but it's just improving it, just restoring it. That's the word, restoring it.
Restoring, that's right. Yeah, we actually, the castle is a candidate to be recognized as a National Historic Landmark. And one of the things we have to do to maintain that candidacy is to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards for restoration. So we have to keep as much of the original material as we can, and then anything we have to replace, we replicate it with the same type of material and the same techniques they use to put it together.
Yeah,
so.
And that's what's so neat. So even sometimes you get a chance to kind of see some of that restoration if it's exposed, and it's really cool to be able to see that. And to think about how they built this house 100 years ago, or 100 plus years ago.
Yep.
And the detail, it was not just slapped up there in a week.
Oh, no, no. It was, for the time, very fast. It took them about 18 months to build it, and Mr. Plant liked to brag that he hired 1,000 workers to construct his estate. But yeah, the finest craftsmen of the day, all of the major providers of home goods. So you've got Tiffany glass in there, and you've got fancy Caldwell lighting fixtures, which was a big name at the time, and handmade furniture by Norwegian craftsmen out of Chicago, the Toby Furniture family. So there's a lot of high-end for the time stuff. But we were talking earlier, the house is not really that ostentatious.
No, not at all.
It blends in with the landscape, and that's part of the aesthetic that Mr. Plant was going for. You know, it's a very nice home, but it's not over the top, because he wanted you to appreciate the landscape as much as the house.
Right. I mean, for that money, he could have built 40 rooms, but he didn't.
Sure.
He built beautiful rooms. And of course, my favorite room is the hidden room,
right?
Which was Mr. Plant's secret little
Yep.
little getaway.
Yeah, that's the story. We don't know for sure, but there's
Right.
there's a window in it, so it's probably not just storage.
Right.
And yeah, could sneak in there and shut the door and get some private time, I think.
Yeah,
So.
and and all the details around the house. And one of the things that I very much enjoy is the fact that you can walk around. It's not just here's a room with a rope in front of it, and here's another room with a rope in front of it. You can go into the rooms. You can check out the rooms. You can there's a lot of great information you've put there for people to read.
Right.
So it's interactive, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not your typical historic house museum where you go and it's you have to stay with the tour guide and you can only stick your head into the room. Yeah, we let you have a lot of access to check things out, and we have docents throughout the house that can answer questions and give you a little orientation before you start your tour. But once you're in the house, you can take your time and imagine what it would have been like to live there with the plants.
Yeah, I mean, so it's fun if you can get those times when it's not too busy. You can just kind of be in the room like, okay, this is my house.
Right.
But it's also laid out nicely because you have the two sets of staircases, so there's a good flow around it. So sometimes you go to those and you go down the hall and there's the people coming back down the hall, and you have a nice flow around there.
Yeah.
And the estate itself.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. And at this time of year, you can't pick a better time to visit. You come and enjoy the tour and then take a hike and see the colors and then warm up next to the fireplace with a hot cup of coffee or hot chocolate. It's a great day to come and visit.
Absolutely. So it's one of those things that I recommend everybody to go see. And I've been, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to see it over the years and seen the improvements with the restoration and everything else, and just the little bits of detail that have just enhanced it over the years. And so it's a lot of fun. Now, I actually have never, which is kind of funny, driven up the road.
Oh yeah, the main entry.
I've always gone the back way because I've gone with bus tours and such like that.
Yeah.
And I understand that road is fabulous.
It is, yeah. So if you come to visit, you want to go through the main entry road, and then after you pay your admission fee, it's about 2-mile winding scenic road. It's the road that he would have built as his main entrance for the estate. And there's a couple of stop-offs. You can stop and walk over to see one of the 7 waterfalls that's on the property. And it's a really short walk from the little parking area. And then there's a beautiful view about a 1/4 mile from the top of that road where you can just walk out on a little viewing platform and see the entire expanse of Lake Winnipesaukee spread out before you. And then wind your way back up to the rest of the estate, which is fantastic. So.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And you have the nice trolleys to bring you from the carriage house up to the castle itself.
Right. Yep. Yes. You don't have to hike all the way up the mountain. You get on a trolley, and then it takes you up the rest of the way for the tour.
But I've done that. I've walked up. It was I walked up and walked down from the carriage house.
Yeah.
And it is. It's just a fun place to go, and it's a place you can bring kids.
Right.
You don't have to. Obviously. Well-behaved kids, but they have a chance to look around too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like we talked about with the ropes, then they would have, kids would just be like, I'm not going there because you got the ropes.
Yeah,
and prevent me
yeah, and
from
we've got a
looking.
family guide that you can use if you bring your kids. My 7-year-old tested it out for me, which is great. Yeah, it's fun. It encourages families to explore the house together. There's some scavenger hunt elements, some art opportunities. So, yeah, we try to be as family friendly as we can. And if they've got a lot of energy and aren't having fun inside the house, like you said, there's so much to do around the property.
Right.
Too, so.
Right. And we'll finish off with the neat things. We were talking about things that were at the forefront at the times, including the central vacuum system.
That's right, yeah. So while he didn't build a large house, he definitely had all the finest things. So he had, a central vacuum system, full surround showers. They called them needle showers back then. And my favorite innovation is actually he had a working refrigeration system, which was powered by an ammonia brine reaction, a chemical reaction, kind of like an instant ice pack is today.
Yep.
You'd mix that ammonia and salt water together, and it made it cold, and that's how he kept his food cold, which is really pretty cool.
It is amazing. And unfortunately, Thomas Plant did not live prosperously for the rest of his life.
That's right. It's the rags to riches and back to rags story. But I do think he did have a nice life while he was up on the mountain.
Definitely.
And then, and for us as historic restoration people, it's nice because he didn't update his house every 10 years while he was living there. So a lot of the original furnishings and equipment that were in the house when it was built are still there, which is really unique for a historic home.
Yeah. And you provide the information, especially about he made all his money in shoes, but he was at the forefront of employee care.
Right.
I mean, he had a
Yeah.
hospital on site. He had a daycare
Yes.
center. I mean, that was unheard of.
Yeah, he did. He took relatively good care of his workers, partly because he knew that the more things he could do to keep them in the factory, the more productive they would
Yep.
be. But yeah, he was definitely at the forefront of that in the early teens as well.
Yeah. It's a fascinating story and definitely worth checking out. Right. So you have the website.
That's right. CastleInTheClouds.org is our website. You can go there for all of our information, hours, admission rates, and that kind of thing.
But you got to hurry because there's only 3 more weeks.
3 more weeks, and then you can't come back till Mother's Day, so definitely check it out.
Yeah.
That's not entirely true. We do have a Christmas at the Castle celebration around Thanksgiving as well.
Nice.
So you can check
Nice.
that out too.
Well, Chuck, thanks so much for coming down
My
today.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you there at the Castle, and we'll be back here in a minute on White Mountains Today.
High above Lake Winnipesaukee sits New Hampshire's iconic arts and crafts mansion, Castle in the Clouds, featuring miles of trails, breathtaking views, an award-winning cafe, gift shop, and educational programs for all ages. You'll find yourself in a world unlike any other. Each visit helps us to restore and preserve this historic American treasure. For more information